I was halfway out the door when I heard her voice behind me. Low, steady, almost too calm for what it carried. Wait. Just wait a second. It wasn't the kind of voice you ignore. The shop was nearly empty by then. Tools scattered, the smell of engine oil clinging to the air. I'd finished fixing the old Honda that had been sitting in the corner for weeks, the one her family couldn't quite let go of. I was packing up my things when she spoke, and for a second, I thought she was talking to someone else. But it was me. She stood by the workbench, arms folded loosely, a faint line between her brows that deepened whenever she was thinking too hard. Julia. Her sister's name came up first when they'd brought the car in, but it was her, Elena, who kept showing up to check on it. Every few days, same soft knock on the frame, same quiet presence that filled the room before she said a word. I turned around, holding a wrench like it mattered. Yeah. Elena didn't look straight at me. She brushed a hand over the edge of the counter, then glanced toward the window, where late afternoon light poured through the glass in thin gold lines. Her sweater sleeves were rolled up, grease smudged near her wrist. Something about the imperfection made her look more human than I'd let myself think. You were just going to leave? She asked, her tone casual, but her eyes said something else. I smiled a little. Job's done. I figured I'd call it a day. Right? She nodded. Too fast. I just thought you might stay. My sister's not back yet, and I don't know. You've been here every day this week. The place might miss you. There it was, that strange half-joke that didn't land as Elena's lips curved, but the smile never reached her eyes. She says a lot of things. I didn't know what to do with that. I leaned back against the door, hand still on the handle. My pulse was too aware of itself, too loud for the stillness around us. She took a slow step closer, not enough to close the space, just enough that her perfume, something faint, like cedar and rain, cut through the smell of oil. You don't talk much, she said. You just listen. It's rare. I guess people tell you more that way. Do they? Her voice had dropped slightly. The air thinned. She was watching me now, not staring, watching, like she was waiting to see what I'd do with the moment, or maybe if I'd ruin it. Then, before I could answer, a phone rang from her bag. She didn't move. The sound filled the space, insistent, echoing off the metal shelves. Finally, she reached for it, silenced it without looking at the screen, and met my eyes again. You should go? Before she comes back. Something in her tone had shifted, lighter, but forced. I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out that felt right. Instead, I nodded, stepped out into the chill of evening, and pulled the door shut behind me. Through the glass, I saw her stand there a moment longer, hands still on the counter, the phone buzzing again unanswered. And for reasons I still can't explain, I waited outside, just long enough to hear the door open again, soft footsteps following me into the quiet street, and her sister's voice cutting through the dusk, sharp, breathless, close. Stay with me. It had been 2 days since that night, but her words, stay with me, still echoed in the quiet parts of my mind. Now, I was back at the auto shop, pretending the air between us wasn't thick with something neither of us had agreed to name. Elena had asked if I could help move some old boxes from the back room. Just until the rain stops, she'd said over the phone, her tone measured, as if she'd already rehearsed how casual it needed to sound. The rain hadn't stopped. Outside, gray streaks blurred the street windows, the steady rhythm muffled against the tin roof. Inside, it smelled of dust and oil and old memories. She was there, sorting through boxes with sleeves rolled up, her hair tied back in a loose knot that kept falling apart. I bent to lift one of the heavier boxes. What's in all these? History, she said, brushing her hands against her jeans. My father's things. He worked here before he passed. Julia, my sister, never wanted to come back. She said it lightly, but her voice wavered at the end, a tremor she probably thought I wouldn't catch. I didn't know how to respond, so I stayed quiet, watching her trace the edge of a faded photograph she'd found in one of the boxes. Her hands, small, steady, the knuckles slightly reddened from cold, held it like it was breakable. You miss him, I said finally. She looked up, the corners of her mouth twitching into a half-smile that wasn't really a smile. I miss who I was when he was still around. Something in that sentence hit deeper than I expected. The way she said was, as if she'd misplaced herself somewhere in time and hadn't had the courage to look. A silence grew, full of small sounds. Rain, a creaking pipe, the shuffle of her shoes against the floor. She tried to change the subject, asking about my classes, my plans. Her tone turned polite again, practiced. But I could see it. Behind her calm, something flickered. The kind of weariness that doesn't come from work or sleep. She laughed once when I made a joke about the smell of the place. The laugh was too short, too brittle, but for a second, it warmed the room. I noticed how her hand stayed pressed against her temple after, as if the laugh had taken more from her than she'd intended to give. "Do you ever wish you could just start over?" she asked quietly, not looking at me. Her voice barely carried over the rain. "Maybe," I said, "but then you lose the parts that still mean something." She didn't reply right away. Instead, she turned toward the window, her reflection faint in the glass. For a moment, it felt like we were both trapped there, two people pretending not to see what was beginning to unfold. When I went to leave, she reached out, almost by instinct, fingers brushing the sleeve of my jacket. "A second too long. Drive safe," she said. And just like that, contact broke. The space between us filled again with unspoken things. But as I stepped outside into the rain, I caught her watching from the doorway, one hand on the frame, her expression unreadable. That was the moment I realized. It wasn't her sister's voice haunting me anymore. It was hers. The storm started early that evening. Heavy, restless, the kind that turned streets into mirrors. Elena had called again. "The power's out at the shop," she said. "You're the only one who knows how to reset the breaker." I could have told her it wasn't complicated, that she could have managed it herself, but something in her voice made me grab my jacket and go. When I got there, the whole place was washed in candlelight. Two small flames flickered on the counter, their reflections trembling in the glass display. The smell of rain followed me inside. "You didn't have to come this late," she said, trying for composure. But her tone wasn't surprise. It was something closer to relief. "I was nearby," I lied. She was standing close to the desk, holding a mug of something steaming. A few strands of hair clung to her face, damp from the humidity. She looked different in the half-dark, less controlled, softer around the edges. I found the breaker box behind the back door, flipped the switches, and waited for the hum of power to return. It didn't. "Looks like it's more than the fuse," I said. "Might be the main line outside." "Of course it is," she muttered, half smiling, setting her mug down. "This place breaks in new ways every week." We both laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that doesn't fill silence but fits neatly inside it. "Stay till the rain slows?" she asked, almost as if she wasn't asking. I nodded. We sat across from each other at the counter, candlelight between us. The shadows moved when she did, stretching, fading. For a while, we just listened to the rain, the wind, the small sounds that fill the gaps between people trying not to say too much. I caught myself watching her hands again. She was tracing the rim of her mug, thumb moving in small circles. Her nails were short, uneven. Her movements slowed whenever our eyes met, but she never pulled away. "Julie is in town again," she said after a while, voice low. "She asked about you." I froze, unsure how to respond. "She did. She thinks I'm distracting you." The corner of her mouth twitched upward, but her eyes didn't match the expression. "She's probably right." I could have laughed it off, made it easier. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "You're not distracting me." Her gaze lifted, steady now, and the air between us felt alive again, electric in the quietest way possible. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something real, something neither of us could take back. But then her phone buzzed across the counter. The name on the screen glowed in the candlelight, Mark X. She didn't answer, didn't move, just stared at the screen until it stopped vibrating, and then turned it face down. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were glassy, unreadable. "Some things don't die easy," she whispered. Outside, thunder cracked. I stood to leave, though neither of us wanted that. When I passed her, she shifted slightly, her shoulder brushing against mine, barely, like static. The moment stretched too long to be accidental. "Good night," she murmured, but the word caught halfway. I opened the door, rain spilling in, and for a heartbeat, she almost reached for me, her hand half lifted, trembling in the flickering light. But she stopped, and I left before either of us made it real. The next time I saw her, the shop was too quiet. No hum of machines, no radio murmuring in the background, just that heavy, watchful kind of stillness that felt like it had been waiting for me. Elena was sitting by the window, sleeves pushed to her elbows, a half-finished coffee cooling beside her. She didn't look up when I came in. "You're early," she said finally. I couldn't sleep. That made her glance up. Her eyes were darker than I remembered, tired, thoughtful. She studied me for a long moment, then looked away, as if she'd said too much by just meeting my gaze. I started checking tools on the bench, pretending to be busy. Neither of us spoke for a while. Outside, wind moved through the trees, rattling the window glass in a slow rhythm. Finally, she said, "Julia's gone again. She always leaves in the middle of things." I turned to face her. "Did you want her to stay?" Elena exhaled through her nose, a sound that was more tired than annoyed. "I don't know what I want anymore." Something about the way she said it, quiet, almost to herself, made my chest tighten. I walked closer before realizing what I was doing. She didn't move away. "Can I ask you something?" I said. She nodded once. "What are we doing?" The words left my mouth softer than I intended, almost apologetic, but they hung there between us, undeniable. Her expression flickered, shock, then restraint, then something that looked a lot like pain. She stood, slowly, as if every motion required thought. "I don't know," she said. "I keep trying to make it make sense, but it doesn't." Her voice trembled at the edges. She walked past me, picking up the mug from the counter, staring into the cold coffee like it could explain something she couldn't. "I shouldn't call you," she went on, quieter now. "I shouldn't wait for you to walk through that door. But when you're not here," she stopped. Her jaw tightened. "It's too quiet." I swallowed, unsure if speaking would make it better or worse. "Elena," I started, but she shook her head. "Don't," she said gently. "If you say my name like that again, I'll forget all the reasons I'm supposed to stop this before it starts." Her eyes were on me now, steady, unflinching. The kind of look that saw straight through the excuses people build to protect themselves. I could feel every heartbeat. The distance between us was smaller than it had ever been. "You don't even know what you're doing," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "You're too young to understand how things fall apart." "Maybe," I said, "but I know what staying silent does." She blinked, something fragile breaking behind her composure. Then she stepped back, just enough to breathe again. "Don't make me say what this is," she murmured. "Because once I do, it becomes real, and I don't survive real anymore." The silence that followed was unbearable. Not cold, just painfully honest. I wanted to reach for her, to close the inch between us that felt like an ocean. But I didn't. Instead, I watched her turn toward the window again, her reflection pale against the glass. And in that dim half-light, she said the kind of line that stays in your head long after you've left a room. Sometimes the only way to keep something safe is to never touch it. The next day, the air smelled of rain again. The kind that lingers long after the storm is over, like the sky can't decide if it's finished crying. Elena wasn't at the shop when I arrived. Just the low hum of the fridge and a note pinned to the corkboard. In the back, "Don't start without me." Her handwriting was small, neat, but the ink had bled in places. I found her sitting on the floor among scattered boxes, sleeves rolled up, an old photo album open in her lap. She looked younger somehow, like the edges of her control had softened. "Didn't think you'd actually show up," she said without looking up. "I said I would," I replied. She smiled faintly. "Most people don't." I sat beside her, close enough to see the album, faded Polaroids, mostly. Her, Julia, and a man I didn't recognize. He had kind eyes, maybe mid-40s, a mechanic's jacket like mine. In one photo, Elena was laughing, unrestrained, head thrown back, sunlight in her hair. I'd never seen her look like that. "That's him," she said softly. "Daniel." Her tone told me everything before she did. "My husband," she added. "He died 6 years ago. Accident. Highway outside Maple Hill." The words came out steady, but her hand on the page trembled. I didn't interrupt. Didn't know how. He was a mechanic too, she went on. Taught me how to tell when an engine's lying to you. He used to say machines don't break suddenly. They warn you first. People don't. The silence that followed felt alive, thick with things I shouldn't ask, things she wasn't sure she wanted to say. You remind me of him sometimes, she said after a long pause. Not how you look. Just, she gestured vaguely toward me. The quiet. The way you listen. He used to do that. Like every word mattered, even the stupid ones. Her voice cracked then, just slightly. I didn't know if it was wrong to reach out, but I did anyway. My hand brushed hers, barely there, and she didn't pull away. You know what the worst part is? She whispered. Sometimes I forget the sound of his laugh, but I can still remember how it felt to stand next to him. That space between us, it had weight. Like gravity. She finally turned to me, eyes red but steady. And now I feel it again. And it scares the hell out of me. I couldn't move. Couldn't look away. The air between us thickened with something that wasn't grief or attraction. It was something older, something rawer. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. Just let it fall, landing on the photo between us, darkening the paper. Neither of us spoke after that. But as the rain started again outside, soft against the tin roof, I realized something had shifted quietly, irreversibly. She wasn't comparing me to a memory anymore. She was fighting the fact that I'd become one. The rain had stopped by morning, but the air still felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. Elena was already at the shop when I arrived, though she hadn't unlocked the door yet. She sat on the curb outside, elbows on her knees, staring at the puddle forming around the gutter. The early light made everything pale and honest. She didn't turn when she heard me, just said quietly, I thought you wouldn't come back after yesterday. I sat beside her. I thought the same. That earned a small laugh, dry, without joy, but real. For a while, neither of us spoke. A car passed on the wet road, the sound fading into the distance. I could smell her perfume faintly again. Cedar, faintly sweet, mixed with the scent of damp earth. Finally, she said, you shouldn't have seen that part of me. The photos. Daniel. It's not fair. I wanted to, I said. If it mattered to you, it mattered to me. She sighed, slow and deep. You make things sound simple when they aren't. Maybe they don't have to be complicated all the time. Her gaze flicked to me, sharp at first, then softer. You really think people like us get simple? I didn't answer. The question wasn't meant to be one. We sat there in the silence that followed, the kind that hums with everything unsaid. I could feel the warmth of her shoulder near mine, not touching, but close enough to feel the pull. I've been pretending, she said finally, voice breaking a little, that this is still my life. That I'm fine running this place, fixing things, staying busy. But it's just noise. I turned toward her. You don't have to pretend with me. She shook her head, looking at the puddle again, her reflection blurred and trembling. That's the problem. Around you, I forget how to pretend. For a moment, all I could do was breathe. Every part of me wanted to say something, anything, that would make it easier. But maybe it wasn't supposed to be easy. So I didn't speak. I just shifted slightly closer, enough that our arms brushed. Her breath caught. She didn't move away. When she finally looked up, her eyes met mine, steady, unguarded, stripped of everything but truth. I can't start something I can't finish, she whispered. I'm not asking you to, I said. I just don't want to keep pretending it isn't already here. Her eyes closed for a second, a long exhale escaping her lips. Then she leaned forward, not to kiss me, not even to touch, just to rest her forehead against mine. That small, trembling gesture carried everything words couldn't hold. The world went very still. The sound of dripping water, the rustle of leaves, the faint thud of her heartbeat near mine. It all blurred into something quiet and inevitable. No promises, no declarations. Just two people finally allowing the truth to exist between them. When she pulled back, she whispered, "This doesn't fix anything." I know, I said, but maybe it doesn't have to. And for the first time since I'd met her, she smiled, small, tired, but genuine. That was enough. It's been months since I last saw her. Sometimes, when I passed the corner where the shop used to be, I still expect to see the faint glow of light from inside. Her silhouette by the window, sleeves rolled up, lost in thought. But the sign's gone now, the window's covered. Someone new's moved in. I guess that's what time does. It takes the ordinary things and turns them into ghosts. I didn't realize how much I'd changed until after she left. Back then, I thought what I felt for her was confusion, attraction, maybe, wrapped in all the wrong timing. But it wasn't that. It was something quieter, heavier. She'd been living with absence for so long. It had shaped how she loved. Carefully, cautiously, like every word might break something fragile. And me? I was still learning that loving someone didn't always mean you got to keep them. Sometimes, it just meant seeing them, really seeing them, in all their contradictions, and letting that change you. The last time we spoke, we didn't say much. She'd sold the shop, said she needed to find someplace quieter, though I think what she really meant was someplace where I wasn't. We stood by her car, the morning light cutting across her face. She handed me the shop keys, a small, cold weight in my palm, and smiled that tired, gentle smile that always felt like goodbye. "You'll be fine," she said. "You're built to move forward." I wanted to tell her she was wrong. That moving forward felt like dragging every version of her behind me. But I didn't. I just nodded. Then she reached up and fixed the collar of my jacket. A small, instinctive motion that said everything we'd stopped saying aloud. Her hand lingered there for a second longer than it should have. Then she stepped back. No kiss. No promises. Just two people standing in the quiet space between what almost happened and what never would. That moment taught me more than any ending could. That love isn't always about the crossing. Sometimes it's about the holding back. About the restraint that protects what was honest about the connection in the first place. Since then, I've caught myself listening the way she used to. Not to respond, but to understand. I look for the pauses in people's sentences, the tremors under their calm. I guess that's what she left me with, a slower kind of noticing. Every once in a while, when it rains, I'll still catch that same scent, cedar and rain. And for a moment, she's right there again. Not as a wound, not as regret, just as proof that some people don't leave you. They just change where they live inside you. And maybe that's what love really is, not the staying, but the mark it leaves behind when it's gone. Sparkles, if this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?